I used to work for Nickelodeon Studios after I'd gotten a spot as a lead animator for Spongebob movie in Season 6. Hillenburg had gone on vacation, so he had his friend's son to be put on the lead for the movie. For reasons I will only pronounce his first name, David. As a result, for events you probably don't want to get into. My friend on the production team, Carlos, and I were extremely excited for the undertaking. We imagined it, our names on the greatest production ever to be established. Later we would find out it wouldn't be so good. You see, I wasn't sure why David wasn't in a mental institution. His ideas were fucked up, and I'll name a few of the ideas. SpongeBob slicing off Patrick's head after he twisted at the end, Mr. Krabs burning alive, and other genuinely insane ideas. After a while of animating this shit, I wound up quitting. I didn't want to be part of what would ruin kids' lives forever. Carlos and nearly the entire team followed my example. David argued, explaining that we had wasted too much money to stop the movie, but we all left anyway. A few days after our escape from that terrible movie, David wound up being found dead in his father's house. He had shot himself in the head with a shotgun. In his suicide note, he stated that he had finished making the movie and wanted the production team and I to watch the tape. We gathered around the large television screen Hellenberg had set up for us to watch after his return from Canada. I'll tell you what I saw that I could remember. It started out the way I had animated it, SpongeBob running to the Krusty Krab. Hillenberg had set it up for what he wanted for the beginning, but he left the rest for David to finish. But after he reached the Krusty Krab, things got extremely blurry. The animation was sloppy, not the way that I had made it. The scene where Squidward was pronouncing the new manager was coming along. When Krab pronounced it, SpongeBob's eyes started to bleed. He started crying all the way to his house. The sounds of unworldly kind of creatures and other voices could be heard in the animation. It was terrible in all ways possible. His parents come home, disapprove of him, and his dad actually violates him. It didn't exactly show it, but it did show SpongeBob's face in the middle of the bathroom, trembling as his father shut the door in the bathroom. After that, all that was heard was screaming. Then the Bubble Splash team comes up to the scene. By now, the team has been in total disbelief. A couple of them begged to shut the tape off, but the rest of us were too curious to shut the VCR off just right then and there. Suddenly, it showed SpongeBob's feet and hands gripping an axe and sliding it on the pavement. It showed him walking to Squidward's house. The camera just watched on the door. We could hear Squidward scream, and it sounded like he was stripped from what Patrick and SpongeBob walked in while Squidward was taking a bath in the episode where Gary goes missing. It showed SpongeBob's face, finally. I couldn't exactly tell what it looked like, as the animation, as I like to say again, was sloppy and blurry. But it looked like there was empty black holes where his eyes were blood dripping from them. And his hands, the axe in one, were bloodied, and the other, Squidward's head and his heart, with his head covered in blood. And then showed SpongeBob killing Patrick. Patrick backs up against the wall, begging SpongeBob not to do it. SpongeBob begins laughing hysterically and sliced open Patrick's stomach and began eating his organs. At this point, two of the production members, Shane and Theo, I think their names were, had vomited, while the other four, Rena, Luis, Casey, and Thomas, had left the room. The four of us, though, Carlos, Shane, Theo, and I, kept watching it. SpongeBob walked over to the Krusty Krab and the Krusty Krab 2, took out a match, laughs, and sets both the restaurants on fire. The customers run out, screaming and burning. SpongeBob's laughter slowly turns into a monstrosity of laughter. Mr. Krabs runs out, melting, his organs spilling out of his stomach and blood dripping out of his mouth, nose, and eyes. The police arrive, and Sandy, as a member of the SWAT team, carrying a flamethrower, burns SpongeBob. As SpongeBob dies, he laughs uncontrollably. As Sandy and the other SWAT members watch, SpongeBob burns to death. After it was over, we had practically puked our brains out. Shane staggered over to the VCR and punched it repeatedly, smashing it with his fist. The other three of us gasped in horror as we saw the VCR tape was missing. Somehow, before we'd smashed it, it had disappeared. Over the next few years, Carlos, Theo, and Shane have been found lying dead in Nickelodeon Studios. I fear I may be next, as sometimes I see David and SpongeBob around my home at night. Before I die, I must dread you not to watch the tape if you ever find it, which I highly doubt, since we can't even seem to find it. If you find it, call the authorities and make absolutely sure that they destroy it before it's too late. Burn it. Do whatever the hell you want. I don't care what you do. Just get rid of it. Nobody needs to see this kind of thing. Not in the slightest.